I was waiting, her hair was long. And so I said, please state your name. And I'm like, we recording? Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to Town Hall. And before we get started tonight, I want to ask you to join me in a moment of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight at a season of gratitude and reflection. And tonight, Father, we thank you for all the many blessings you bestowed upon this community. Particularly our children and successes they achieve on the field, off the field, and everywhere. And we want to thank you also for the leadership and guidance of the volunteers who coach them and teach them the fundamentals of whatever it is they aspire to be. And Father, we thank you for this wonderful community that we just call Blackstone. We call it home. And we ask you be with us tonight and guide us. And even when we may disagree, that we will always be agreeable. We ask for these things in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
We invite you to join us. Stand if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. And before we get on with our business, as I said a few moments ago, I made a pledge that when I became mayor, and the council also supports this, then we have teams from Blackstone that achieve the equivalent of a district championship or even greater. We're going to pause and recognize them. And Blackstone is proud to be the home of the Nottoway Gators Youth Football Championship. And you Nottoway Flag Gators went undefeated this year. I saw y'all play. Now, let me tell you what they did, folks. They went undefeated. They went 12-0 in flag football, and they won what's called the Southside Super Bowl. But what I was really impressed with, I watched y'all play several times. Flag football may sound like it's easier because you're not hitting the ground and tumbling. But it's harder to actually record a tackle in flag than the actual tackle, because tackle, you can grab somebody and bring them to the ground. I watched you guys several times, the teams y'all played against, the running back for the other team would be in the open. And I was sitting there myself going, well, they're going to score here. And you guys would always run and make that precise grab and raise that flag up like that. And I was like, wow, I can't believe it. Y'all had, I think it was 7 shutouts, beat your I think 7 shutouts out of 12 wins. Just phenomenal. So I'm going to just read an excerpt from the letter. I'm going to hand out certificates down here. Where is that letter, Madam Clerk, for the names? I've got the name. You had names.
Oh, it's right there, right here.
Here we go. We've got a few plaques here. And these are not from the mayor. These are from the people of Blackstone and the members of town council. So I want y'all to be clear. And guys, I'm going to tell you something. I played on some good teams. There goes my chair. It scored. Hey, it scored. I want y'all to listen to me here. Right now, I know you've got a lot going on in your lives, but you're going to look back and your parents are always going to remember, hey, remember that year that we beat everybody? We won the Southside Super Bowl? Trust me, as you get older, you're going to really remember these moments. So what I want to do, I'm going to start with the players, but basically the town of Blackstone salutes and congratulates the Nottoway Youth Football Association for its flag team Super Bowl victory. I believe this is the first flag team to go undefeated. Is that correct? And this championship is not only a victory for your program, but a triumph for our entire community to celebrate. Many years from now, you will remember the satisfaction of striving for a goal and achieving it through hard work, strategy, and dedication. We are proud that you, the Nottoway Gators, call Blackstone home. I'm going to call your names of the players first. Raylan Atkins. Where is Raylan? If you're not here, that's fine. We'll give them to your coaches. Kazier Ashford. Kaiser. Well, come on up here, Kaiser. Come on. You come around here. Hey, I won't ever mispronounce it again, I promise you. Ajavius Brown. Not here. Okay. How about Caden Carpenter? What number were you, Caden?
You're going to get the other one.
What number were you? I saw you make some tackles out there. Andre Davis.
Not here.
Lamel Epps. Is Lamar also not here? Lamar Epps? Okay. Jace Fitzgerald. Where's Jace Fitzgerald? Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations, young man. Xavier Folks. There you go. Well done. Congratulations. Eric Gonzalez III. Good job, man. Great job. Great job. Andrew Heller. Andrew. Congratulations, Andrew. Isaiah Jackson. Okay. How about Derek Lawrence? All right. How about Tristan Lumpkin? Oh my goodness, I saw him. Now I know the center is here, Walker Miles. Where's Walker Miles? Good job, young man. Good job. Josiah Revis, or Jesiah Revis. How is it? Josiah. Not here. How about Messiah? Messiah, okay. All right. Wade Reese. All right, Wade. Good job, buddy. Cullen Shorter. All right. Good job. Thank you, Benoit. Ephraim Stokes Jr. It's a team effort, but I got to brag on him. 30 touchdowns this year. 30 touchdowns.
Hey.
Isaiah Thomas. All right. How about, is it Jakey or Jakey Wells? Jakai Wells, the quarterback. Where's the quarterback? Good job, young man. Good job. And the last player I have on my list is Jakai West. I must have got right on that one. Good job. Coaches. We'll start with the assistant coaches, Evon Wells. Well done. Y'all are always so calm and poised out there. Never got excited one bit. Ephraim Stokes. Where's Ephraim Stokes, the coach? Well done. Well done. Ronald Short. Ronald Short here tonight. Okay. Team Parrot, Heather Miles. Keeping the stats. And the Bill Belichick of Southside Youth Football, Antonio Campbell. Did we miss anybody? Did anyone here not get a certificate? Mr. Mitchell, we'll get yours later. We're saving yours till later. Hey, parents, everyone, thank y'all so much. Hey, listen, we've got some exciting plans. There's talk right now, but just let y'all know, there's discussion about possibly in the future building y'all a practice field and a competition field where the old school buildings are. That's something may be hashed out tonight, but we want to thank y'all. Let's give all these young people a round of applause again. And thank you, parents, for everything y'all do, because I know when you got a kid playing sports, it's full time. We thank y'all. Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Neal.
Yes, sir. We got something for the council members.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention this is a board member right here, Nathaniel Miller.
One for each one of y'all.
Awesome,
Thank
awesome,
you.
awesome.
And the secretary. Don't forget the secretary.
Yeah, secretary gives one.
And parents, just so y'all know, these meetings are now recorded, so if you go to the Town of Blackstone website tomorrow or Wednesday, it'll be uploaded and y'all can see the kids on the video and stuff if y'all want to look at it.
Did Jennifer get one? Did she get one?
It's right there on my desk.
Okay. I told y'all gonna make sure you got one.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Neal.
So I guess nobody wants to stay for the meeting, huh?
We're gonna have fun.
Taylor,
All right, we're going to let y'all vacate.
Tell us.
Jennifer.
11 on the field, take it.
That's 11. That's 11.
Hey, Philip.
We,
Philip.
Hey, Philip, did you talk to her?
I'll go check.
It's not unusual. She'll come in 5 minutes late.
Okay. Just make sure she okay.
Send the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to leave us open just for a minute.
Stuff happens so quick.
Yes, sir.
And I want to thank Madam Clerk for helping me with that project.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
That's what made sure Madam Clerk got a hat.
Called me about an hour ago, and I called her back and
No, we-
just got answered.
Okay. All right. Folks, we're now going to go to a public hearing. We have an advertised public hearing for conditional rezoning on 8th Street. I believe the Planning Commission held a hearing on this, and Mr. Bernorbeck, tell us what.
We have an application from, I believe it's IGP LLC, and it's the same folks that own, or the same corporation that owns the old medical center on South Main Street.
Okay.
There are a series of lots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots. It's part of the West Blackstone, so each of those is 25 feet wide by 140 feet deep. Okay, it's the same in that whole part of town right there. These are the lots that are directly behind what used to be the Epps Transport property. Okay. In 2015, Mr. Donito, who's with IGP, approached me and before he bought the property and asked me what the zoning was. And indeed, in 1992, the property was zoned business general. It stayed that way for 15 years, and in 2007, we discovered it was rezoned back to R2. I don't know if you remember it, some of you
I do.
observers, but it was rezoned back to R2. There has been some discussion about putting an entrance, and Mr. Donito's initial request was, can I put an entrance in? And the answer is, yeah, you can put a VDOT qualified entrance and that sort of thing without modifying the zoning. But in order for the parking lot to be included, I believe, and as a zoning administrator, I guess my opinion is, that's an appurtenance to a hotel or a commercial activity or something like that. So I do believe the rezoning would be necessary if you're going to use it as a parking lot for any of the additional activities that go on that property at the old medical center that is already zoned business general.
All right.
The request is for a conditional rezoning. The proffers,
And when you say conditional rezoning, does that mean this would only apply to this particular owner of the property?
no, it would go, these conditions stay with the
with the
property.
property.
All zoning is property specific.
You're right.
not owner specific.
That's right.
And the conditions that they agreed to or proffered, they would install a driveway with parking from the 8th Street to 920 South Main, 920 South Main being the medical center. So it would not be for a gas station, a donut shop, retail, any of those kinds of things can't go in there. This is only for a parking lot and the entrance. Install 6-foot shrubbery, which is the standard we use whenever we adjoin residential districts, 6 foot of shrubbery on the left side of the property for screening from 110 8th Street. Lighting will be diverted away from the neighbors in such a fashion so that somebody's bedroom doesn't have a light shining in it. Parking on both sides of the driveway, and the entrance off 8th Street will be additional ingress and egress for the 920. Those were the proffers that were provided and agreed to by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission did vote to approve it. But this will put a series of conditions on it that those are the only things that can happen, are a parking lot and an entrance. Everybody can petition to change at some point, but at this point, the conditions would allow only a parking lot to be constructed.
Okay. And the adjoining property owners, as is customary, have been notified by certified letter about the proposal?
And I've spoken to one of the property owners, they called me today, and I kind of explained what currently could happen there. With the R2 district, R2 by right does permit single family,
Townhouses?
townhouses, and duplexes could go in there. So I guess they had some questions, but those are by right activities in the R2 district.
So, do we have a date or tentative schedule as to when there's gonna be some type of expansion there
There
on
is
that
no
property?
tentative date. This is more of a housekeeping matter because in 2015, and I do have the letter, he was informed that it was commercial zoning. And I tell you now, there is no specific project on the table that would say, we're gonna build a hotel, we're gonna put a restaurant, we're gonna do any of those kinds of, or more shopping or, strip center or any of that kind of stuff. There is no specific project on the table, nothing. There's been discussions on a couple of occasions, what can I do? Would this fit? How much parking do I have to have? But as far as a proposal, there has been nothing.
Okay. We'll go into public hearing at this time. Is anyone here tonight to speak for or against the conditional rezoning request, which has been advertised and recommended by the Planning Commission? I see and hear no one. I'll close the public hearing. Members of council, what's your pleasure?
Philip, what was the vote, and was there any discussion from any citizens at the planning commission?
We didn't have any comments. I don't think we had a quorum, but I don't think we had the full
3-0.
planning commission meeting, but it was unanimous for the members that were there.
I got a call from a resident that lives on 8th Street that is against this. And what is the need for an entrance right there on 8th Street that you can't have on Main Street?
They can enter off of Main Street, but this would be an auxiliary or a secondary entrance. And the entrance is legal.
Well, I think-
Irregardless of the zoning, somebody can put a driveway into
In
the
the R2
property.
zone, right.
In R2 zone. The parking is the difference. And I spoke with, I think, the same property owner that you spoke with today, and I explained kind of what we just talked about. And I don't know if they didn't have any concerns anymore. I don't want to go that far, but they at least understood the issue.
Chairman McCarthy, Dennis McCarthy, who chairs the planning commission, made a comment at the meeting that he was like, wow, I'm surprised there's not, because it is a residential neighborhood. And even though there's nothing on the books, we all know that sometimes things can happen fast. And, if it's a parking lot for a hotel or a parking lot for a little dentist office or a veterinary office, far different creature than maybe a 200-room hotel, which, again, just speculating. But I'm surprised there weren't more. I personally would not want to live, if I bought a home in a residential neighborhood, would not want to be, near that. But that's my preference, not their preference.
And I think the request certainly wouldn't be what you see today if two sides of the property weren't already zoned commercial. The Epps Transport Building, which is now Blackstone Professional Building, plus the old medical center property that reaches in the back and Clay's are already zoned BG. And then across the street, the church may or may not be BG, but then as you go on down portions of South Main, community convenience and that sort of thing. So I think that it's not a case of necessarily a spot zoning. I think we're trying to meld it into what's already there.
And like I say,
Conditions.
these people could right now say, this will doom any type of request we were thinking if the council were rejected. We'll just build townhouses in that wooded lot. Would they have a setback? Would they have the side yard setback and all that?
Oh, yeah.
The townhouses have to be 30 feet off adjoining property line.
How
Remember
wide is that
the
lot,
one over on
125?
Bird Street?
Yeah, that's-
So if they were to put them in long-wise,
Yep.
they'd have to sit back off of that
Have to
back.
be
And they could build
18
them
wide.
they could build them two-story too.
Yeah, the number of townhouses would be purely dictated on actual square footage, because you
Right.
gotta have a certain number of square feet per, and if it's 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom kind of thing.
Was there any way to hold this until some type of definite plan has been put into action as far as any type of construction?
Council, you hold the cards. It's a
We just have
request.
to re-advertise and, go through the process a second time.
It's totally up to y'all. This is the beauty of a conditional rezoning. You hold the cards.
Conditional rezoning and parking lot only, that's all they can do. No,
I think the reason
Business
this has been
activities.
brought up, I believe, is, I know the obvious owner, but it's probably a selling point for the property.
yeah,
If there were a hotel
Current
come
zoning.
over and behind the old medical center, it's a selling point to get a hotel there because of having additional parking.
entitlements are important.
So that's the only way I would look at it, is I don't want to hold up. I wish, if there were concerns in the neighborhood, I wish they were here.
We did get the call from the one property owner and I spoke to today, and they understood. I can't say they were overwhelmingly endorsing the project, but I understand that they could do these things if nothing were done, and these are the limitations that they can do with it.
Members of council, like I
I'll
said,
make a motion, we hold this until there are definite construction plans.
you'd move to delay.
I move to delay.
Okay. Is there a
And
second?
table it. I think that's the proper term.
Yeah, that's right. Table. That way, if you deny it, they can't reapply for 2 years, something like
If you
that.
deny it, they cannot apply for 2
Delay
more
is a
years.
good
Delay.
motion. Okay. Is there a second to Mr. Morgan's motion to delay?
Is that the same as table?
Table.
Table.
Yeah. Table indefinitely. Is there a second? I hear no second. That motion will die for lack of a second under our parliamentary procedure. The floor is open for any other motion council wishes to make. Don't fall over each other, ladies and gentlemen.
Either way, it's,
Yeah, look at us going beside your house.
I'm shocked that there wasn't more turnout. But again, I'm a zoning purist.
I move to approve as presented with the 5 proffers that are here, that are agreed upon.
Okay, is there a second to Mr. Nash's motion to approve the request? This will be a first for me in 13 years. Going once, going twice, no second. That motion also dies for lack of a second, so we're back at square one. Is there any other motion that council would like to consider.
Can we continue the public hearing?
Yeah, you
You
can
could.
bring us back at any time.
Could you continue it to a date to give more residents an opportunity to voice concern?
You might want to, but you have to also, if you're gonna have another public hearing, you might have to legally re-advertise.
And do all like, I mean, we would literally take the case up again and
But
re-advertise.
you
the public
can't
hearing.
charge, I mean, obviously the property owner has paid for the advertising. You
No,
can't
this
charge
mistake
them.
is mine. The town.
Yeah, but that mistake was, don't beat yourself up on that. That was a lot, that was not a bad, that was not a crazy
I
mistake.
thought I was telling them correctly.
Yeah, that was not a,
So if we re-advertise for a public hearing, what would happen?
You may get the same turnout now.
you may get zero turnout, but you may get 2 or 3. I'm like Mr. Nash, like I said, council and mayors are elected to make the tough decisions, but if it's affecting your home, I'd like to see you in the audience personally. It has more weight than to hear.
I look at it as the aspect of, with a 125-foot lot, I would think they could probably build at least 3, maybe 4 townhouses. I'd rather have a parking lot than 4 townhouses next door to me.
All rentals.
All rentals, correct.
Sure.
That's the only way I'm looking at it.
Right.
But that's me speaking for someone that's gonna be living right next door to it, like Lonnie said.
Well, you know what you could close the public hearing, not to re-advertise again, and just let it be known, this issue will be continued to the December council meeting for further discussion.
And I don't think the applicants will have a big stake.
And if someone comes here and is, mad as a hornet or concerned, we're gonna recognize them. I think, is that okay? Is that agreeable?
Bring it back next month.
Okay.
That way we don't have to pay the,
Right, I think
No
it's
offense,
reasonable.
but-
No, don't offend me, I don't wanna pay
pay
either.
more for it, so.
All right, well, listen, that'll conclude that. At this time, you have your minutes from your last council meeting of October 15th, the regular meeting.
Move to approve the minutes for the October 15th meeting as presented.
That's,
Motion's been made by Mr. Nash and seconded by Mr. Miller. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say one note I will have to say, just while we're all here, the Christmas decorations were bought and promptly ordered after that meeting. We don't know for sure, the bows have arrived, we're not sure if the new wreaths will be here before Friday or in time to be installed by Friday. And while that's disappointing, I will point out that Thanksgiving is the earliest it can be this year, so as much as we want to have those decorations up Friday night, there will still be 6 weeks of Yuletide joy to see these decorations after Thanksgiving. But I want to assure you that the town manager and staff ordered them the day after the decision was made to buy them. Yes, sir.
who's gonna install it?
The minutes, yes, sir. Yes.
Employees? What is this, a holiday for them? Friday's a holiday. Okay.
Yes, in October, the council voted 7-0 to request by Mr. Osborne and the Blackstone Youth Recreation Association, who was not present, to allow the Armory to be prepared for possible use by youth basketball practices, but I think they start in January. That was a motion that was made in October. Mr. Osborne was,
Okay, because there was something about, what do you call it, that had voted on, for citizens, referendum.
well, that was discussed at the
That was at the continued meeting.
Yes.
That's not what they're voting on now.
right.
What I'm saying is, when the work been done on that building today, and I was wondering, if there's some referendum, how can it be worked on? Because no action should be able to take anything to change it when it was like that.
I think you may have left, but the last meeting we had, which was last Wednesday night, the special meeting, the continue meeting, Mr. Morgan made a motion, Mr. Nash seconded, and it passed 6-1 to allow the Armory Group to continue making cosmetic improvements.
But
At their
that was before you made a referendum, right?
There's been, Ms. Hasbrook's committee is still discussing the possibility of a referendum, and it's probably something this council is going to discuss in depth in both December 5th and December the 21st, I believe, or whatever our December meeting is.
Because what I heard you, I'm sorry, I heard you get some referendum for a certain day.
No, let me be clear. Now, this is good because this is how things get out of control. What I told the council at the last meeting we had was that Delegate Tommy Wright says if this council asks for a charter change, we first of all have to decide what we're going to propose to be on the charter. Have to have a public hearing here locally, and then send that wording to Delegate Wright for him to introduce in the General Assembly in January. If we miss January, then we lose a whole nother year.
Yeah, I heard that part, so I'm thinking that I missed it earlier.
Right. But then if Delegate Wright's referendum charter change goes through, the earliest this council could authorize a referendum would be at a date after July 1st, because all laws in the General Assembly in Richmond don't take effect till July 1st.
That's what I'm getting to. If it's under a referendum, that's when you're going to build it to a standstill. No, it's up good or up or down. Let's stay like it is.
That's a question this council's gonna have to answer, because right now council has agreed by,
According to law, I think maybe she can answer that.
what's a town-owned building, Mr. Mitchell's asking, it's a town-owned building. Council voted at the last meeting, Wednesday, 6-1 to allow the volunteers at their own expense to continue making cosmetic repairs. But any environmental, like asbestos abatement and lead paint abatement, would be procured through the town. They can still pay for it. But the town would have to have the oversight, because as Mr. Van Orbeck said, look, if something, God forbid, something happens to a child, they're not suing Army volunteers, they're coming after the town of Blackstone. Because that's where the money is.
I don't, maybe I'm not saying it right. I'm saying once that thing has been approved by the senator, or name it.
The House of Delegates.
Yeah. But once that thing's been submitted to him, there's no work to be done on that building.
Council could make that, council could make that declaration, or council could say, look, keep working all you want, but you do so at your own peril. Because if voters may say, you know, and the referendum can only by law be advisory. We can't adopt, no town can have a binding referendum where whatever the voters say, it must go. Now, smart elected officials are gonna, if the vote is 60-40, don't do it, I would bet you most of the folks up here are gonna say, we're not gonna renovate their army.
But now, the thing I'm talking about now is that using taxpayers' money to supply them while they're working on it.
The only taxpayer money I'm aware of, and y'all correct me, is I know lights are being used at night, because I think some of the,
What happened to that vote on that?
Mr. Nash's vote included that, Mr. Nash was asked by, I believe, Mr. Tom Taylor, who's paying for the lights in the building? Mr. Nash's answer was, if I believe is correct, the same folks who pay for the lights of Wigglesworth, or the lights of the basketball court, or the lights of the fire station, the taxpayers.
But that wasn't voted for them. And how does that, I'm not getting that part about the paying the light bill stuff. That's taxpayers' money, but the vote was not to use taxpayers' money. See what I'm talking about? The vote was not to use taxpayers' money. The original thing, when we got this thing together, when we first started talking about repairing that, doing that building, the thing was they could do anything they want to, long enough not use taxpayers' money.
Right.
So what I'm looking at, the lights they use, they should have to pay for.
Well, Mr. Nash's motion did not state when they could or could not do work, and maybe council wants to clarify that tonight. But his motion was very clear. It said the Army volunteers can continue to make cosmetic repairs at their own expense.
All right, that's what I'm saying, but the lights is not there.
There's no light meter over there. I know you made a good point at the meeting about maybe getting a meter for the Armory, and that just didn't take off at the council level. I'm trying to recite history. I'm
I was
not.
trying to say, you're really breaking law, because it's already been voted on not to use taxpayers' money, so if you start using it, everybody's getting, they're using lights, they're using taxpayers' money.
But I don't believe, and I'm just trying to recite facts. I'm not trying to argue anything. This council's never voted here in public that I've seen that the council prohibits any tax dollars from being used. Now, Mr. Nash's motion basically did that the other night, but no one's ever made a motion about burning the lights.
All right, let me ask you a question. When they decided to, I want to get clear on this.
That's all right.
That's what a lot of people want to know.
Right.
When they decided to go through this, when I was on the original committee, and it says that we just, nothing went through to keep it going, they try to raise money. But what we all decided in this meeting, the council, the people who was in charge of the group, we're saying, I won't stop it, I won't talk against it, but as long as we don't use taxpayers' money, then there's about 20 of them that are all agreed to the same thing. And I don't know, I didn't know if we had it came to the town council, if that was part of the agreement or not.
Been no formal agreement to my knowledge, Mr. Mitchell. In the Armory Committee, I've heard several of them say minimal impact to the taxpayer. I've even heard a few of them say no impact to the taxpayer. I've never heard anybody say we will never burn the lights.
Last question. Do you have agreement with the Armory Committee?
We speak through motions, and the last motion by Mr. Nash I thought was very clear that they have
Before.
no, sir, not that I'm aware of. No written agreement. Now there is one thing we did do in December 2014, 2 months after we had the big powwow with Dave McCormick. This council did adopt a resolution of support for the Armory to be renovated with as little impact to the taxpayer as possible. In fact, Mr. Nash made a change to the resolution I introduced to try to minimize the impact to the taxpayer. Am I correct?
That's been a long time.
It was December 15th of 2014.
To clear, here's the two questions.
Okay.
The two questions are, why is it being held so secretly of what you're doing? Why come the Armory Committee could not have told the people in the ward what was going on?
I don't know. I
Now,
don't know.
the people in Ward A are taxpayers just like anybody else.
Absolutely.
Now, what's so secret about this project? My second question is, and maybe she can help me out. You've got kids that have serious problems with asthma or whatever. So you're going to tell me that the town of Blackstone is going to take it upon themselves to let these kids go in that armory and practice basketball? You're going to tell me that this town is going to take it upon themselves and say, okay, go in there and practice. Before you let these kids go on there, you should let somebody from downtown or somebody in the EPA come in here and get this building graded before you let these kids even think about going in there.
I think that's the plan, but again, I think what Mr. Van Orbeck said last meeting is, I think that's where this council, I know that I as mayor, as much as I love the people involved, I would never take someone's word saying, Billy, the building's safe. I'd want to hear it from a professional. As Christine Hasbrook said last meeting, we want to see the credentials of whoever gives that building a thumbs up. Now, the only thing I can say, Mr. Miller, please, when you say you, I take that to mean me. I'm not on the Armory Committee, but I got to give Walter Mack
But you're the mayor of the town.
I am, but Mr. Miller, in October, this council, to my left and to my right, voted 7-0 to do two things: to allow basketball practices and to allow Walter Mack and the Army volunteers to make bathroom repairs. Now, the repairs did go past the bathroom.
But as we went home and thought about this, and now we're coming back telling you we don't think this is a good idea.
I hear you loud and clear.
To let these kids go in here.
But you are the council, you are the legislators. I'm the executive branch with no voting power. The legislators voted 7-0. You can rescind that vote tonight. Anyone that voted in favor of that vote can make a motion to rescind. Then we can have new discussion, and then we can ban kids from going in that building. I'm the parliamentarian, and right now everything's been done according to parliamentary and by your motions. Motions have been made that were in order by this council, and they've been duly voted on in public, on the video in front of everybody to see. But if the floor is open, if you wish to make a new motion, it's all yours.
The small concern really is what for the town doesn't make this mistake, because if you voted on these things and somebody gets sick, who's responsible?
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, I know the town manager pretty well. I don't think the town manager is gonna let, or this council is gonna, if there's any question, and there are good questions raised about the lead paint, the white paint, before any kid goes there in basketball practice, I can assure you that this council and this staff is going to want a clean bill of health from a reputable.
I still say go to them with it.
That's your right.
But certainly no child is going to be forced to practice in a
The
building.
last I heard, nobody planned on letting them play basketball in there until it was inspected.
That's what I've heard.
That's the way that's the way I understood it.
Just on the last meeting, though, you were doing, we let it play in every day.
But one of the
buddy
things,
system works good.
but one of the things I appreciate from Mr. Miller and you, Mr. Mitchell, is the fact that, and this is one thing I've learned in 13 years, if there's a perception that something's being done underhanded, even though I don't believe it's been, because I've seen Walter Mack has posted photos on Facebook of the repairs, but we have a perception problem, they have a perception problem, and we need to make sure we're all on the same page. I totally agree.
I'm going to the EPA.
I'm not blaming anybody, I just wanna make sure it's right before any kids.
Amen, amen. And then you're not going to get any,
That's good.
Yeah.
You will see the things in writing, make sure it's all right for the.
I'm not going to coach, I coach in that league. I'm not going to have a practice with 10 and under girls in that league until I see the report myself and know what's been signed off. I give you my word on that. I've been coaching that league for 13 years too. I don't know what else
I'm
to
going
say.
there tomorrow, and I'm going to find out from the EPA who's going to be signing off on this. There's too much buddy going on.
I don't think that's correct.
Okay. We're going to find out.
Nothing has been done underhanded. Everything has been put out there. You voted on it last month. I mean,
We
that's
voted
just,
to
you
let
just
them
got
play.
you just got a citizens that's trying to do something because we do not have a community center right now. You got an
Now, the
abundance.
only thing I'm
you got
saying
an
is
abundance
this.
of playing and
I'm
practicing
saying
basketball.
this.
We don't have any other option.
I'm saying this, Lonnie. Do you have any kids?
I have two.
Okay. Are they playing basketball?
They're grown, but they have played basketball.
Okay. They play basketball over there.
I've been over there and played basketball over there.
My team started playing ball in there in 2006.
Okay. What I'm saying is, look, prove it to me that it's safe, I'll go along with it. But until you prove that it's a safe
Well, you're going
environment,
under the assumption that somebody wants you to play without it being inspected.
that's right.
I think it's full intent of it being
No one's
inspected
gonna
first.
play ball in there until it is deemed to be safe.
Right.
But, hey, these are good, these are fair concerns. We need to move on with the agenda, but the one thing I think we all can learn from this discussion, we've got some work to do on public relations and perception. And hey, that starts with me. And the fact that one of my colleagues is concerned about the way things have been done, I assure you concerns me. And I can promise you, Mr. Miller, as a coach and as a mayor of this town, I'm not letting any kid go in that building if there's any whisker of a doubt. And no one on this council is. And Walter Mack's not. But again, we need to move on. The minutes were approved, correct?
Yeah.
All right. But thank you for your question. Thank you for your question. At this time, we have our visitor. We have our auditor, Aaron Hawkins. Mr. Hawkins, you've got to see a little bit of everything tonight, and we like your report.
Thank you for having me. Going to go over the report, go over some key areas that I think are of importance, and then open it for any questions that you have. First, very complimentary of the staff here and being prepared for us for our field work. I felt like it was, as usual, since I've been involved, a very efficient process. I'm going to start in the report on page 1, which is our opinion on the audit. It's an unmodified opinion, which is in our business the best that we can give as auditors. You will notice on page 2 there are a couple new paragraphs this year for a change in accounting principle that required a restatement of beginning balances. This was GASB statement number 75, which 68, I think it was 68, came out a few years ago, which was the big VRS standard change that required probably about 30 new pages in this report. This year is the other post-employment benefit version of that, which for you guys, the only one that you have is the group life insurance that's related to VRS. And so that's added probably about 20 more pages to the report this year.
But it didn't add to the cost of our report.
That's right. That's right. So, but that was the big change for this year. Still an unmodified opinion for the audit. I'm going to move on to page 6, which is where your fund statements begin. You'll see there your governmental funds, which for you guys is your general fund, your capital projects fund, and special revenue. And the one that you're probably most familiar with and care the most about is your general fund, which is the fund balance is sort of at the bottom there. You're sitting at about $238,000, which I think was about 70 less than last year. I'm not usually and I'm here to provide my opinion on the audit, not really provide guidance or things like that. But I always like to sort of say, be cognizant of your fund balance. I think the ideal is to have your fund balance be about 15% of your expenditures for the year. So I've heard 10, I've heard 20, so I usually will say 15, but somewhere in that vicinity is where you'd want it. When you look at your fund balance and you got $238,000 there, you see that unassigned number is right now a negative 18. And so what that means is, we've got a $238,000 fund balance. We've got these elements of where we intend to use it. Normally that unassigned would be a number that this is free to use it however we want to use it. And so right now you don't really have that number to be any way you want to use it. That assigned number, that big number, the 204, is related to your airport money. So if you ever decided to say, we don't want to use this money for any positive flow we've gotten from this airport, if we want to make that for use at the town's discretion, then all of a sudden that goes down and becomes unassigned rather than an assigned figure. So that that's one way to build up that unassigned number. The other methods involve just budgeting, things like that. I'm going to move on to page 11, which is your proprietary funds.
It's a good page. We like that page.
This is actually the second page of these statements, but this shows the change during the year, your revenues and expenses, and the changes in your enterprise funds, and you'll see those things are growing. A $1 million increase in your electric fund, $500,000 increase in your water and sewer.
And there was one time, I believe, Mr. Rubeck, one time we weren't even including depreciation expense, were we? When times were tight, we're including in the electrical system depreciation like you're supposed to.
Factoring in depreciation, we have a small line item in both our water and sewer and electric budgets, and it is practical. We budget a portion of depreciation. This year, we're fully funding the electric depreciation from the year previous to figure out about $125,000. So that is in the budget to be placed in a depreciation fund, segregated and separate from the reserve. For water and sewer, not so good. I think the depreciation water and sewer is probably over $600,000 now.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just impractical for us to try to do this. So we're trying to keep that big, very.
The increase from water and sewer is due to, we're gonna be having to make those payments to the east end, correct?
We will be making payments to the east end. If you remember, we did a 2-year interest only, so we didn't have to raise the rates as much. So
Correct.
coming up this coming year, we're gonna start, any type of cash that we have separate from what we do in the reserve, but that depreciation fund is separate from the east end. Some could argue that it is depreciation because the lines have gotten old and we're replacing them, but we do a lot better with the electric depreciation in the budget than we do water and sewer. There's more cash flow in the electric than there is water and sewer, but we're trying to fully fund as much as possible. Certainly the electric, we just don't have that much physical plant. We don't have a water plant, we don't have a wastewater plant. The lines are less expensive, all those kinds of things. So the depreciation on the electric system is much smaller than it is in water and sewer.
Right.
It's over $600,000. I don't know if we'll ever get there. I can only imagine what New York City's depreciation would be, in the billions of dollars a year, but ours is about $600,000.
Excellent, excellent. What other pages would you like to?
All right, I've got just a couple more. On page 22 is where you see that breakdown in your fund balances for your general capital projects and special revenue. That just gives you a more detailed look at it from what you saw on that previous page. That airport number, that 204,000, making up the largest portion of the general. And then on page 73 is you can see where we had to restate the beginning net position this year based on this new GASB accounting standard that came out for, you now have a liability for what's this group life insurance amount that's out there. And so we had to restate for what that balance would have been at the beginning of the year so that when we show what it is now at the end of the year, it creates a accurate comparison, and change for what happened just during FY18.
Very good.
Those are my last pages to go over.
Generally speaking, I'm sure there's an exhibit on here. What is the town's debt load right now? I know at one time it was 12. It's supposed to go to 10.
I think with the borrowing for East End, we got back up there. We're about $12 million.
Okay.
So,
But we lose the medical center. That comes off.
in August of this past year, we paid off the original wastewater treatment plant bond that was taken out in 1998. That was paid off in August. Okay. We made our last payment in August, and we made it a year early because there were some reserve funds held by our trustee, U.S. Bank. And then the medical center will be paid off in May, I believe, is the last payment, May 1st, if I'm not mistaken. And that's kind of a wash right now, but we have some lease information. The lease payments go down, but our debt services expires in May. The next scheduled debt service to come off the books is in 2022. The reason I don't prepay that is because it's 0%.
Zero.
We've got some higher interest rate like East End and some of these other things. Putting our money towards paying down higher interest bearing accounts makes sense. And, we have a 3% fixed for the water treatment plan, about $5.5 million outstanding on that. But again, we can throw a lot of money at that, but it ain't gonna make a dent there, Rascal, for a while. We're not gonna see a lot of action, but I think East End is probably the place to put any available cash that we have that we can spare, put it into East End and get that water and sewer paid off. The higher interest rate.
And note 6 is where you'll see several pages that
What page is that?
provide background information on the debt that's outstanding. Page 29,
Okay.
note 6. Several pages there that get very detailed as to what kind of obligations that you have out there.
We've come a long way. Your predecessor, who's come up here back around 2009, 2010, we had some rough audits. We should get our audit report much later, April, May sometime. So we appreciate you coming here early. Any members of council, any questions of Mr. Hawkins? Thank you so much for coming. And we thank the town staff for the continued financial recovery. Thank you. Safe trip. All right, moving right along. Mr. Hawkins was our first visitor. Anyone else to speak tonight who would like to address council? There's going to be 2 opportunities, one at the end as well. Seeing none, we'll get in. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Wayman Mitchell.
I think Christine has to
at Clay's, absolutely. Wonderful. Well, clap for her, because tonight the clap would be great. It was excellent gesture. Moving right along, we have our fire chief, Dion Tomer, on his 27th anniversary of being a fireman, right? He was the youngest paramedic in the state of Virginia at age 19. Am I right?
The good old days. On old business, we received our air packs, 229,000 and some change worth. They're still sitting in the boxes. We're gonna ensure that everybody gets trained on them well before we place them in service, since that really is one of our lifelines. Christmas banquet invitations, you should have received it by now. If you have not, please get with me. I thought I sent the tax information to the clerk, but I didn't see it in the packet. We discussed last time about considering taxing for size of structures. I threw a couple, Prince William, was another couple counties that actually had fire and rescue tax levies incorporated. The issue I don't know, and this is probably where Tessie would come into play, is county versus town. Is it appropriate for a town to do such a levy for square footage and fire flow? And once again, this would primarily be for your larger industries that come in with huge fire flow, multi-story structures where it's going to put a burden on fire service. But obviously, that's nothing that's going to be decided anytime soon. Virginia Defense Force did their exercise with the water disbursement. You guys gave them permission. They did it at the fire station in Blackstone and also in Crew. They said it was a great success. They were kind enough to leave what water didn't get dispersed for us. So it was a good training exercise. They really want to do more with us when it comes to community involvement.
Good, good.
Number one, our life member, Doug Webb, passed away November 7th. Doug went on became a life member under medical purposes when he was diagnosed with cancer. Doug served both Colonial Heights, Petersburg, and Chesterfield fire departments through his tenure. He was a great man, and he was definitely a loss to the fire service. But once again, it certainly does put the heightened awareness of cancer service-related deaths in the fire service.
How old was Doug?
Oh, excellent question. I would put him 50s.
Yeah, barely. I was thinking the early 50s, yeah.
We now have Engine 5 back. If you drove by and looked, Engine 5, for some reason, the airbags deployed while it was parked during Hurricane Michael. We were very fortunate nobody got hurt when they deployed. The airbags are supposed to deploy when the vehicle rolls over at least 45-degree angle, and they were sitting still and moved the parking brake.
Was the wind blowing real hard or something?
Nope.
Wow.
So fortunately, Atlantic covered the cost of replacing the whole system of airbags, which I'm sure was mighty expensive in a fire truck.
Glad it didn't happen when they're driving down the road or going to a
Very
scene.
much so. One of the members actually said that he just rolled up the window. His head was outside the window because they were parking. And if it would have went off while his head was outside, because they're side curtains, yeah, it would be a significantly different story. Our ladder truck is still out of service. We had an issue where it wasn't going up. Kind of defeats the purpose of a ladder truck if you can't get the ladder up. They're finding some hydraulic and electrical issues that they're working with at Atlantic. All we could keep our fingers crossed for is a FEMA grant saying that we won, and we can move forward in replacing that piece of apparatus. We have the Edgar Johnson Memorial Service that is right around the corner on December 6th at 6 o'clock in the evening at the back of the fire station. Edgar is the only firefighter for the town of Blackstone that lost his life while performing the duties as a firefighter. And every year we hold a memorial service. And lastly, Tim Barnes just received his life membership last month of 20 years of service with us.
Good. Very good.
And that's all I have.
How many folks on your senior roster now? Was that in here?
53 or 54
You're
now.
capped at 60, right, or 55?
We capped at 60.
Okay. Very good. A lot of departments are having a hard time with manpower. We've got membership. That's great.
There's one in the county with 12 members, so
Yep.
we're very, very fortunate that we have the membership load that we do.
Any members of council questions for Chief Tomer? All right, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Look forward to the 8th. It's always a big night. We will move right ahead to our committee reports and the recommendations, and we first have the Account and Finance, Chairman Nash.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, we gotta pay those bills. I don't like to pay those bills. Your first batch of bills, checks not yet approved, they total $435,703.64. I entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Philip, Rugby Environmental, which it says asbestos removal for $1,650.
That's part of that weatherization house, the field come on, so.
Okay.
there's a little bit on it.
Any other questions? I'll go with a roll call vote, starting with Ms. Hasbrook.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. And your second batch of bills, they total, what did they total here? Oh, my little cheat sheet is, oh, here we go. They total $422,404.54. And they're all broken down wonderfully.
Move to approve.
Mr. Nash has moved. Is there a second?
A second.
Ms. Jones has seconded. Questions? There's definitely a Napa know-how page in there. But I see y'all are spreading the wealth around. That's good. Any further discussion or questions? I'll entertain a roll call vote, starting with Ms. Hasbrook.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. And now we go to committee reports with the Account and Finance. Chairman Nash, you have a few recommendations, I believe. I think the main recommendation is the investment tool.
Correct, yeah. Philip, the budget billing policy, do we need to go ahead and vote on that? Or it's,
No, I think
they're not ready with it yet?
No, but we can make copies available for the council once you guys finalize what you do on the, in the committee, but I think we have protocols and such things for budget billing. Just about ready, and we'll have those to you in December.
All right, and the LGIP, you want to bring up, do you have anything with the rates to give the council?
Jennifer Hardy went out and got the bids. I'll give you the layman's discussion about it, but there was an RFP that was issued for investment of up to $1 million. This is monies that we've set aside in the past 12 months. And this is the results of our good audit. These are the numbers that are a result. So we do have $1 million that we'd like to invest. Traditional investing has been with CDs. And, we bid out to the local banks. You can see on our bid tabulation that we received from 3 different local banks, CD rates and money market rates as well. We also went to the Virginia Government Investment Pool, which is also known as Local Government Investment Pool, LGIP. It's run by the Treasurer of Virginia. And these are the rates. These are the equivalent of a money market account. They're liquid, and you can take them out without penalty at any time. You can move the money in, move the money out. We also met with Virginia Municipal League, VACO, which is also offering the same type of investment pool. And as you can see, they have some rates included there as well. We have $1 million, and we'd like to invest it in local banks for a 3-year CD. If you remember, just back last fall, when we got rates, 195 was the winning 3-year CD number, and now the highest CD that we received was from Citizens Bank at 2.6% for 3 years.
With a penalty though,
That's the key on the
well,
bank.
for most all of them, I believe.
Is it penalty for the first withdrawal?
Yeah.
For any withdrawal.
Really?
All 3
Penalty on
banks.
interest, not penalty on principal.
And
I got
Philip and I met Friday I think it was Friday. The day it was raining, and this is when VML was something new that had just come up, and that's why he wanted to come to you about that outside, because there is no penalty at all for that.
A higher rate with no penalty. Each of the banks either said that it would be a portion of the interest.
Right.
Or they capped it at up to 6 months of the interest. So all the CDs do have penalties if you remove them. And with I hope, and the reason we're going through this exercise, because I really see interest rates starting to.
You are correct.
As we can see from one year to the next, we're
Right.
about 10 full basis points higher this year than we were last year on pricing. So I do think that we're going to see interest rates increase. CD is fixed. The money market accounts, or the equivalent of the money market accounts of the VML, VACO, and LGIP will pay more.
If we went with the VML plan, we can make the taxpayers an additional roughly $10,000 a year,
Okay.
up from what we were making on the 1.9.
And no penalty, it's totally liquid. It's like, basically, it's like a money market account. You can go in and draw it.
At any time. That rate is fluctuating, and they receive, and that way, that's why this wanted to come up. Jennifer will keep an eye on it. If it starts going down below a certain percentage,
Pull it.
then you pull it and you put it in one of our local banks who
The
has
finance committee come up with a benchmark to say, if it hits below this, boom, we're going to.
I would suggest to the committee, if once it hits 2.59, you
Yeah.
run to
I agree.
the whatever bank it was. And for the record, I am on the board of Citizens Bank and Trust. Want to get that out there. But
If the market is going down,
Don't have any
the other
penalty.
banks are gonna be coming down too.
But that's when.
Correct.
When our
But-
threshold would be to go look at it.
Right, but does that stable liquidity pool in the VML at 2.36, that's, if we lock into that right now, it'd be 2.36 for the next 3 years?
No.
Move.
The liquidity pool changes daily.
It's variable.
That would change.
But that's more like the money market. The 2.89, they want you to keep it in there at least 1 year, because
It's more volatile.
Right.
The investment is more volatile, but it goes.
But no risk to principal for the taxpayer. The taxpayer's not risking any principal.
I think with VML, VACO, and LGIP, there could be. I mean, if it decreased dramatically, there could be. And I asked the same question to the Bob Lauterberg, the director of VML, VACO, and he said, in theory, the principal could be subjected to loss. Have they? No. And what is the trend? No. Since 2009, the rates have been really stable, been pretty poor, and then only within probably the past.
The Fed's getting kind of, yeah. What is members of council? This is, it's nice to have these issues to discuss about where to put money.
If you look, it's probably 7, 8 pages further. You see the liquidity pool and the chart of what it's
Yeah,
done
I saw that.
since the inception in 2016. So it gives you a little bit better idea of where it's moving right now.
I think a good idea to have a benchmark. If it gets below a certain point, we need to.
I'd say, and I agree, that once it gets below, at or below 2.6, which was our
That's
highest
what I
bid,
was gonna say, 2.6.
then I make a motion that we proceed on with the VML VACO at 2.89%, with the $1 million. And setting a benchmark at 2.6%. If it reaches that, then we re-examine and re-solicit.
Possibly go back and.
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Jones is second to Mr. Nash's motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, due to the amount of money, if it's $1 million proposition, I'll have a roll call vote, starting with Ms. Hasbrook.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 6-0. What else, Mr. Nash?
While we're still on investments, we do have a CD that is maturing the first week in December. I think there's a small grace period that we can make a decision on. I think we'll certainly come back to you on the 5th of December. And I think we'll fall within our grace period.
How big a CD?
$226,000,
What's the rate right now? 0.4?
1.15.
Is that the cemetery fund use?
It is the perpetual care of the
You
cemetery.
can probably double that.
Can't spend it. Yeah, I mean, you can,
You can't spend it,
I
but
would say it needs to be in the long term, because you really can't spend it. You could triple it almost.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think we'll talk about that on the 5th, add that to the 5th agenda.
Okay, heads up, I think it's gonna be coming up, and the numbers may increase between now and then. I don't know if the Fed meets or LIBOR
and
changes.
I mean, with that, you probably want to set the same type benchmark. I mean,
It's good to have a trigger, so if something's going to
Correct.
protect the taxpayer.
In the meantime, would you like for Jennifer to also get CD rates
for the 220.
for the 224?
The more
or
information, the
226?
better.
yeah.
We'll do that.
All right, rising rate environment. What else from the Finance Committee?
That was, the bus budget.
Yes, the bus recommendation, Mr.
Josh,
Worrell.
You want to come present what you need to present? We recommended approval, but Josh has some decent changes in there with certain lines and bus lines and stuff that will be added.
Correct. So probably the biggest thing that's going to change is an additional route that's called Fast C, or it's going to be called Fast C. That route is going to be servicing the Nottoway Commons project area when it's fully operational. I think it's late 2019, early 2020. So you can expect to see that. That's going to be an additional $15,000 match from town of Blackstone.
With that, I did ask Josh, is it possible, say if that bus line is a bust and you get 20 riders a month, the town can withdraw at the end of that budget year, and that's correct.
So
that
only on
way
the hook
we
for a
don't-
year, one-year
Yeah.
experiment.
So we don't need to spend 15 grand if we're only gonna get 20
riders.
riders a month.
I like the idea of that.
Correct.
Let me ask you this, not trying to get too to micromanage here, but I do think if we're going to really, I think Mr. Nash is correct. We want to maximize. Could that bus look different, or have something maybe that really screams at the federal people, like Fast C? Maybe have a State Department logo or something on it, just to say, hey, look, because a lot of people will say, oh, what's a? You see a bus? Oh, I can ride that bus. You know, just to maximize. You know, welcome Fast C, or you know, something. I don't know.
It's
I'm
in
sure-
the plan. It's in the plan.
I figure
So,
you're good at that.
yeah, if you look at the proposed budget spreadsheet that's in there, that one that you kind of folds out.
Right.
Down there at the capital section, I'm requesting $15,000 to rebrand the bus
Love
system,
it.
which will include that.
Love it. Love it. Good for you, Josh. Very good.
Yes, sir.
What needs voting on to approve tonight?
The entire budget as presented.
That includes a
by Josh.
2.5% increase. When would that take effect? The wage increase?
July 1 of 2019 is when this budget will take effect.
Okay.
So and just because I did have one person ask about the wages, what is that extra costing the town ourselves?
I don't know the exact dollar figure, but I can definitely get that to you guys. I want to say it's roughly about, I don't know the exact dollar off my head, but we are going from about $36,000, or I'm sorry, about $30,000 to $41,000 for the town. So that's with all the changes in the bus system. But I can get that exact dollar
Adding the
figure.
extra lines, so it's only-
So, and these increases for salaries include bus drivers?
It's all bus drivers and the admin people at the bus shop.
And can you say who those are?
Yes, that would be myself, Janet Matthews, she's my assistant, Barbara Rothgibb, or I'm sorry, Barbara Rothgibb, and all the drivers. There's also two additional positions put in there for the drivers, anticipating we'll have to hire some people for Fast C.
So it's not for mechanics?
No, the mechanics are not in that. That's purely bus shop.
Mr. Chairman Nash, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve the Blackstone area bus system budget as presented.
Second.
Ms. Hasbrook seconded. Any further discussion? Due to the dollar value being over $10,000, I ask for a roll call vote, starting with Ms. Hasbrook.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Josh. Can't wait to see what that Fast C bus looks like.
Yeah. Can you talk about the bus fares very quickly?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about, I remember at the committee, you were talking about going to $1, which is still a bargain.
Correct. Yeah. All the routes I'm proposing to try to, we're having an issue with getting some local funding. So what I'm going to try to do is increase fares to kind of offset the additional costs to the localities, like say the Lunenburg County, Amelia County, places like that. All of our outside routes, I'm proposing to double the fare to $1. Currently, it's 50 cents, and it's been like that since 2003. So all of the routes except for Blackstone and Fast C will be $1. And then Blackstone and Fast C will remain at 50 cents.
Okay.
So $1 traveling as far as the bus lines go is a pretty good deal.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, I mean, you can take it all the way to
Can't beat that.
Petersburg, Farmville.
You can't beat that.
Yeah.
How often do you have a situation where, and I'd be the worst bus driver ever, where someone gets on the bus and they don't have anything? How often does that happen in Blackstone where we just give mercy rides because they don't have any money?
Very seldom mercy rides, but there are instances, and this does happen more often than you think, where a person will get on the bus and like, oh, I don't have the money, and then another passenger will offer to pay for it. Okay. But we can't accept anybody without them paying their fare, so we don't really do mercy rides. It's kind of at the mercy of the other riders.
Gotcha. Very good.
Yes,
Very
sir.
good.
That's it.
Any other motion that we don't need to move for that, do we? When will the new bus fares take effect? July
We would
19?
have to have a public hearing.
Okay.
It would have to be before July 1.
Okay.
And it would be in effect in July 1.
Very good.
Do we need to move to have a public hearing?
Well, I gotta present it to the DRPT first, but
Okay.
they should have.
Then
You
come
do it
on.
as part of our general.
Gotcha. Okay.
town budget.
Okay. Moving right along, if there's nothing else, Street and Light Committee, that's Mr. Miller's committee, I believe.
Yes, the committee recommend denying the request for the LAD rebate. If you look in your packet, you'll see that the owner of McDonald's was requesting a rebate because of his lights. I'll let the town manager explain it to you, what was happening.
As my research can find, Dominion Power, who is the overwhelming provider in most of the state of Virginia and most urban and suburban areas, does give a benefit for someone who will put energy efficient appliances or do a retrofit and that sort of thing. So Dominion Power would give a rebate to somebody like McDonald's who just completed a renovation over there with more energy efficient. However, they're a generator of electricity. We're just a distributor of electricity. So I checked with our competitor at Southside Electric and other municipals, and it's really not something that folks do on the distribution side. It is more the benefit to Dominion that they can reduce their peak demands. And because of such, I made a recommendation. I had talked to Mr. Freeman about it and made a recommendation to not support that.
So if he was on the Dominion line that comes over towards Courthouse Road at Grace McDonald's home,
He'd be eligible.
Dominion would offer,
He would be eligible as a Dominion customer.
because they're the ones that create the electricity as well.
They're the generators, and they're trying to reduce overall demand.
Gotcha.
I did see Mr. Freeman at his establishment when I was getting my $1.12 cup of coffee the other day and told him how much we loved him.
Oh, yeah.
And told him, but he knew what the committee recommended. He's very understanding. He loves Blackstone. I told him we all think he's one of the best corporate citizens we have. Do you want to take the committee recommends to deny. Is action needed?
I think
You
they
want a
would
motion?
ratify it.
Mr. Miller, you want to make that motion to deny?
I'm making a motion that we deny the LED lights from McDonald's.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Mr. Morgan is second. Any further discussion? All in favor of to deny, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. What else, Mr. Miller?
Also, if you look in your packets, there are some trees that we went out and looked at.
Yes, there are. Some big trees.
And we committed, since it was only me and Mr. Wilkinson, we recommended removing the dead trees at 108 and 202 on College Road, and we recommended not cutting the trees on Beach Cliff.
A lot of trees down that part of town, aren't there?
A lot of leaves, too.
Yeah, a lot of leaves.
But I think if you're questioning why, what was the rationale? I think during Hurricane Michael, there were some trees that went down behind Ellisoo and Ray's house, and they were curious about this red oak. It is still alive. There's a lean to it, but I don't think it's worse than it was necessarily before the storm. It doesn't look like it's pulling out of the ground necessarily.
Two on College Road, are they?
They're just
Are
dead
they
as a.
Okay,
They
that's
did,
what I
they
wanted.
did.
It's hard to tell by this picture.
For these trees, we're doing 4th and College Avenue.
At the old Moody place is what I think
Yes.
you're talking about. It's not,
We didn't look at that, did we?
Each of these trees are on, so citizens can understand, on town property, on town
believe
right
the
away.
two on College Road are on town right away.
Right away.
Beach Cliff.
Not, there's a fence tacked to the tree that runs right down through there. I'm not necessarily sure that it is on
Okay. But it's still alive. The main thing is the tree is still alive.
live, and I think the determination was not necessarily property line, but the viability of the tree.
Do you want to make a motion to approve the committee request on the trees?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the recommended dead trees on 108 and 202 on College Road,
And denying Beach
and
Cliff.
denying Beach Cliff.
Is there a second to Mr. Miller's motion? Second. Mr. Wilkinson is second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the recommendation, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Well, very quickly, while we're on trees, we have two over at the school property facing Oak Street, between the playground and Oak Street. One of them, the top is busted. It's just too wet to get a bucket truck in there right now. So, and then there's another one that's just dead. But if you look at it, there's a pretty menacing limb hanging out of the top of it. We just can't get to it with our equipment. And if we cut these other trees down, if we use a tree service for any of that, I think I also need to get the top at least cut out of that one where, and if you look at it, it's literally split the limb and it's hung up in the limb.
Any of those on the school property be used as like kind for the grant that we have?
Well, we're all pretty creative, and if we can, we will, but.
Give it a try.
We'll give it a try, sure. but one of them is kind of menacing. It doesn't look all that hot if you drive by there.
In kind,
Okay.
One more recommendation, that is Sixth Street.
Okay, and I'm gonna let the town manager handle that because it's a serious problem.
It's tough.
And me and Mr. Wilkinson recommended that the full council review this property before there is a recommendation made. I mean, it's a serious problem, and I'll let the town manager.
It's the same ditch that runs behind Jenny Davis Bunn's house, and I think we tangled with that one a couple years ago, and it's been a consistent theme. There is a culvert that I believe the town installed when the Whitehurst lived on the property that runs through literally the entire length of what is now Miss Blevins' property. There's 2 drop inlets as well, one in her front yard, one in the backyard, and it does look like something is separating around one of those boxes because it's a salt spot. Okay? Ms. Blevins' other contention is she believes that the pipe is too small to handle the volume of water, and that may very well be the case. And I think it would just take a hydrology, get MacBug to do some calculation for the drainage area and see if a second pipe would be necessary to put in or excavating the entire one. It is on private property. I do not see an easement that has been acquired by the town from the Whitehurst or from anybody else on that particular project. And it's a private property ditch, and those are the things that we all have to tangle with. And if fixing it could be pricey, depending on what Mac would tell me. Do we need to increase the size of the pipe and that sort of thing? But during Hurricane Michael, there was enough flow of water backing up there that it literally breached the top of the head wall and pushed her chain link fence down. And I don't know if, I wasn't there, but apparently it didn't sound and look too terribly good at the time.
We took down the chain link fence in the front, the chain link fence in the back, and the entire French drain. All that had to be replaced.
Could we meanwhile, while each of us, or maybe